Hey y'all, Dixie here. It is a nice day in Alabama and my mama is watching Bratcher today. So I thought I'd come get some fresh air on a trail and talk to y'all about some backpacking stuff. I've had folks ask me the 11 years now that I've been through hiking if I would ever hike any of the same trails again, specifically the through hikes. And the answer is yes, I probably would hike all of them again with the right circumstances. But anyway, I thought it would be fun to rank all of the through hikes I've done, going from least likely to most likely that I would do again. Coming in at number 11 is the Arizona Trail. This trail spans 800 miles from the border of Mexico through the state of Arizona, obviously, up to the border of Utah. Don't get me wrong, this trail is amazing in a lot of ways. I mean, you get to go through the Grand Canyon, which I would definitely love to go back and visit again. But for me, it's the most fresh through hike. I think in a lot of ways, giving birth and through hiking are similar in that at some point you forget how hard it is or was and you're willing to do it again. So with this one being the most fresh and considering there were a lot of different factors that made it more challenging for me personally, it ranks the lowest on my list. First off, I did the Arizona Trail when I was pretty freshly postpartum. I started it before I was 6 months postpartum, and I had my mom and my son with me, which my mom helped in a lot of ways, but just logistically with them staying at Airbnbs and me orchestrating all of that and trying to be a thru hiker and a YouTuber and a mom and just all of that at one time was a completely new experience. And then the trail itself was a challenge this year in different ways. First, it was a low water year, so there were really long water carries that people don't typically experience every single year as a norm. Also, there was an elevated risk of exposure to rabies, which I met a rabid skunk who definitely put saliva all over my tent, and then I touched it and brushed my teeth and ate breakfast. And I didn't know that it is possible to transmit rabies that way until I talked to somebody from the health department, so I got my rabies shots. And if that wasn't enough, there was also a norovirus advisory along the trail, which I also happened to contract and have that fun experience. But with all of that said, if the trail didn't try to kill me, and if I had done it in a normal way, like not being alone and being able to keep up with the bubble and having the typical 8-week through hiking experience on the Arizona Trail, I think that I would have probably liked it a lot more. And with taking longer to do it, just wasn't the normal time of year. Things did get hot at the end. Probably my favorite thing about the Arizona Trail was Tim and Susie Colby. They were amazing trail angels. And if it had not been for them and for my mom helping me, I would have had a much tougher time out there. So really, the people ended up making that through hike for me, which a lot of times that is the case. So I do think that if I were to try it again at a different time in my life, under different circumstances, that I would enjoy it more. But I don't know that it's necessarily justifiable to do it again for those reasons, just because there are so many trails out there to see and to hike. Coming in at number 10 is the Pinhoti Trail. This trail is 350 miles and it starts in Alabama, which is the state that I live in, and it goes northbound into Georgia. There are some really cool spots along the way on the Pinhoti Trail, and it's a beautiful trail, very well marked and maintained. The people who take care of it love it, and it shows. When you go hike the Pinhoti Trail, Kim and Nathan Wright are gonna take care of you. They make you feel at home, and when you first start out, they've got the Pinhoti Outdoor Center. They're close to the terminus, so they offer shuttle services, you can bunk with them, etc. But it's got that feel of like down home, and you know that you're gonna be looked after. Even if Kim and Nathan are a good bit away, they've got contacts all the way up the trail. So it's just a comforting feeling. While I enjoyed my time on the Pinhoti Trail, and I am proud that it is in my current home state of Alabama, I like to go explore and see places that don't look like home. You know, when I go on a backpacking trip, I like to see new things. So I'm glad that I did the trail. I think that it's a great trail for beginner through hikers. You know, there's water, you've got the green tunnel, and then like I said, the support system of the Pinhoti Trail and the people around it. But again, so many trails, so many things to see. So it's definitely not high on my priority list of trails to through hike. Number 9 on my list is the Pacific Crest Trail. The Pacific Crest Trail, or the PCT, spans 2,650 miles from Mexico to Canada through California, Oregon, and Washington. Now, if I'm being completely honest with myself, I'm probably ranking this one a bit on emotion, because this one also tried to kill me, specifically in the Sierras, or the Sierra Nevada. I have a little bone to pick with this before I continue on, but a lot of folks, if you say the Sierras, because we also say the Cascades and the Rockies and the Smokies, but you will get corrected and get told that it's not the Sierras, it's the Sierra, or Sierra Nevada, Wingardium Leviosa. But I'll have you know that there is a sign near the Sierras that says, "Welcome to the Sierras." So, just want to say that even some people in that region call it the Sierras. So I rest my case on that. But anyway, moving forward, the Pacific Crest Trail is actually a really amazing trail. And I tell people all the time, if you want a through hike where you can throw a rock at any given time and hit something beautiful, like you're gonna have a gorgeous view the whole time, it's the Pacific Crest Trail. And it takes you through the desert, up mountains, and everything in between. You can climb Mount Whitney, which is the highest point in the lower 48 states. It's over 14,000 feet, and it's just a, I say convenient side trail. It's a tough climb, don't get me wrong, but it's really close to the trail. So it's really convenient in that way. But the year that I did it was a crazy high snow year. And so there were days, like multiple in a row, where I thought that, you know, I might die, not so much because of the snow, but because when it melts, it floods the water sources and you have to cross them. So anyway, if I had done it in a different year, I would probably rank this one higher, but I can only go based off of my experience. I do think that this trail could be fun to do SOBO, southbound, going from Canada down to Mexico, but I don't know, we'll see. Maybe it's something that I'll redo one day just so I don't hold such a grudge against it or something. It is a very good trail as far as having a support system goes. There are a lot of amazing trail angels out there, and it's a pretty popular trail, and the trail towns most of the time know who the hikers are and what they're doing, which is nice. Another plus for the Pacific Crest Trail is that although you do go to high up elevations, it's very gradual because that trail is actually graded for livestock. So anyway, it's one that I definitely recommend to folks, and I think most people who do the Pacific Crest Trail really hold it near and dear to their hearts. Coming in at number 8 is the Continental Divide Trail, or CDT. This one is a 3,100 mile trail, but you actually end up hiking less than that most of the time because most folks don't stick to the proper route. A lot of folks take different alternates and things like that. So I think it ends up being closer to like 2,800 miles. But this trail also goes from Mexico to Canada if you're heading northbound, but through New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, a little bit of Idaho, and Montana. I love this trail because you get to walk through Yellowstone and Glacier National Parks while you're on the trail. It also goes up over a 14er, which means a mountain over 14,000 feet in elevation. It's called Gray's Peak, with an opportunity to hit some other 14ers as you hike this trail. I actually loved Yellowstone so much on this trip that I'm taking a family vacation there with my husband and kids this summer. and we're gonna stay in one of the cabins and then do some of the different hikes around just as day hikes. But the thermal areas are absolutely fantastic, getting to soak in a hot creek, and it was just like being on another planet. I think I also ranked this one above the Pacific Crest Trail because I feel like I've got some unfinished business with it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see all of Glacier. I had to take an alternate route because we just got dumped on by snow. And so I really didn't see much north of, I believe it was called Triple Pass in Glacier National Park. So I've been toying with going up there and hiking that section specifically, but that's why I would rank the CDT over the PCT, just so I can go and do it and finish on into Waterton Park. The downside to this trail, I would say, is going through the desert in New Mexico. It's like desert. It's not a mild, beautiful desert like the Pacific Crest Trail. It's like no shade, brutal desert, tumbleweeds, you know. So if you want the real desert experience, you'll get it on this trail. But the highs are high. Like, the areas that you see that are pretty are amazingly beautiful. And there's a lot of wildlife on this trail. I saw my first mountain lion on this trail, my first grizzly bear, and just all sorts of critters very frequently. It was the longest of my through hikes, but I still highly recommend it. Number 7 is the Foothills Trail. This trail is only 77 miles long, but it is still a through hike. They actually give you a completion certificate, and something that I like about this trail is they also give your dog a completion certificate if you happen to bring one along. This trail hugs the North Carolina, South Carolina border, so you actually hike it either east to west or west to east, although most people do hike it eastbound. I probably ranked this one over the CDT and PCT, not so much because I loved it that much more, but because it's only 77 miles, and that makes it much more feasible to do at any given time in life. And it reminds me of a mini Appalachian Trail. In fact, if you're planning a through hike of the Appalachian Trail, I highly recommend going out and doing the Foothills Trail because I think it's a great trainer trail for the AT. But it's a beautiful trail in general, and I actually saw one of the most magnificent sunrises that I've ever seen on this trail. Ranked number 6 is the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail is about 2,200 miles. The mileage changes a little bit here and there every year, just based on reroutes. It goes through 14 different states along the East Coast, starting in Georgia and ending in Maine if you're going northbound, which most people do. This trail stole my heart and imprinted on my soul. It was my first through hike, my first backpacking trip for that matter, and the Appalachian Mountains just have so much history, and there's just something alive in those mountains. I don't know how to explain it. Otherwise, you just have to go submerge yourself in that mountain range and figure it out. The support that you get along the AT is unmatched. Like, there are just oodles and oodles of trail angels that want to help people out. And so if you are a first-time through hiker, this is a great trail to start on for that reason. Now, with that said, this trail is hard. And by hard, I mean the most physically challenging thing I've ever done. I had muscles sore that I didn't know even existed in my body. But it was absolutely worth every painful moment because doing that trail absolutely changed my life. I don't have any near future plans to hike this trail, which is why it is ranked so low on my list, and also because of how physically challenging it is. But I do have actual plans to do this trail. I want to be the oldest person to through hike the Appalachian Trail one day. And right now, the record is currently held by Nimblewell Nomad, who broke it in 2021, and he was 83 years old. So I've got about 44 years to go, unless somebody else breaks it between now and then. And one time I saw Nimblewell Nomad, and I was talking to him, and I said, you know what, Sonny, someday I want to break your record. And he looked at me and he said, go for it, kid. I was glad that he wasn't offended by it, but anyhow, so that's penciled in for 2070. Number 5 is the West Highland Way. This is another one of those shorter through hikes, but it's 96 miles, so almost 100 miles isn't something to, you know, call super simple or anything. What I like about this trail is, one, it's in Scotland, which is amazingly beautiful. Two, you can choose to camp on this trail or you can stay at inns along the way. When I did this through hike, I was 6 months pregnant and I was nauseated the entire time. I had horrible heartburn, around ligament pain. So I wanted to lighten my load as much as possible, and we stayed at inns along the way. I don't know if I had to do it again, if I would camp instead. I do feel like camping in a place helps you get to know it better. You hear the noises of the night and see the animals early in the morning, all that stuff. But it is nice to have a dry bed and warm food to come to after a long day of hiking. I'm not 100% sure that I will do this trail again, but I am 100% sure that if I live long enough to go visit Scotland again, I will definitely go visit there again. That place spoke to me. It was just wonderful. Number 4 is the Camino. There are actually many Caminos, and I did the French Way with my sister in 2019, and it was approximately 500 miles. We had so much fun. She is not somebody who is gonna camp in the woods and go doo-doo in a cat hole. So I knew the Camino was an adventure we could go on and enjoy together, because on the French Way specifically, you don't camp and you stay in little villages or towns along the way. And so that was her cup of tea for sure. But we had the best time, experienced a whole new culture, got to practice a new language, met people from other countries. Especially for her being so young and getting to go abroad, I think that was a very eye-opening experience. But I will say I'm kind of cheating with this one, because I wouldn't want to specifically do the French Way again, but I have wanted to do another Camino ever since we did the French Way in 2019. So I would probably want to do something like the Del Norte or the Primitivo or something like that, something different than the French Way. I would have loved to have gone this year to Spain and do a Camino, because there's going to be the total solar eclipse, which would be amazing to catch while doing a Camino, but I don't think that that's in the cards for me this year. But anyway, if you're able to go, highly recommend the Camino experience, and especially if you can catch an eclipse while you're there. Number 3 is the Lakeshore Trail at Pictured Rocks. This 42-mile trail takes you along the shore of Lake Superior in the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, which, like, it's downplaying it to call it beautiful and breathtaking. It's so unique, and it's just really, I mean, every bend that you go around, there's just something else cool to look at. Plus, this one has decent water sources, and it's not like crazy strenuous hiking. It's really enjoyable. So I would also rank this one as a really good through hike for beginners. And I know that a 42-mile trail is a stretch calling it a through hike, but there is a like actual starting and ending point, and also it's a very small segment of the much longer North Country Trail, which is also a national scenic trail in the US, just so you know. But that's like the cream of the crop of that trail from what I understand. I would certainly visit Pictured Rocks again in the near future. I would love to do that with my family and take the kids. Well, not sure that my stepdaughter would want to go backpacking, but I would love to take Bratcher there. And that would be a relatively easy trail for taking a little kid, especially one that you have to carry, because the elevation profile is not like crazy or anything. Number 2 is the Lagavegr Trail. This one is only 34 miles. So again, I realize that some people would scoff at me calling it a through hike, but it is an experience, and I'm gonna throw it in here too. This trail was just crazy to look at. I saw some of the coolest views I've ever seen in my life on the Lagavegr Trail. For those of y'all who are not familiar with it, it is in Iceland, so another abroad trip, but I really enjoyed my time in Iceland. This trail was brutal the first night. My tent was getting blown over. It really put the Z-Packs duplex up to the test in the wind. And even though, you know, I could say this trail tried to kill me too, I really liked it a lot. And since it only tried to kill me one night, like, did it really try to kill me? I hate being cold, and I was cold most of the time I was there, if not all of the time I was there. But again, it did not deter me from being willing to do this trail again. If you ever get the chance to go do the Lagerwege Trail, and then the trail that I call the F Trail that continues from there, where you see like magnificent waterfalls, please do it. Make the leap, go see it. The thermal areas on the Lagerwege Trail were just so cool. And like I said, I mean, it was one of those where you look around every day and you're like, how is this real? I feel like I'm in the Truman Show and this is a painting in the background or something. And finally, last but certainly not least, coming in at number 1 of the trails that I'm likely to do again is the Florida Trail. The Florida Trail is 1,100 miles approximately and spans from the Everglades in Florida up to Pensacola. So on this trail, you'd either be going eastbound, westbound, southbound, or northbound, depending on the route that you take. I was northbound, westbound. And the Florida Trail just absolutely captured my heart. Now, disclaimer, I was born in Florida and I lived there until middle school and have visited frequently since I left. And I'm pretty much an alligator, like at least part alligator, because I hate being cold. I love just like bacon in the sun. And if I were to be an old maid, like if I didn't have a family, I would go live in like an old maid little shack in the swamp. I love Florida, specifically the Everglades area. The swamp is home. I don't know how to explain it. You see so much wildlife on the Florida Trail. It's not, will we see anything today? It's, what are we going to see today? Whether it's cool looking birds that really look like dinosaurs, or alligators, snakes, frogs, raccoons, wild hogs, I mean, all sorts of stuff. My biggest regret about the Florida Trail is that I didn't carry my trail cam yet, because I feel like I would have caught so much every night on that trail. But absolutely, hands down, if I was gonna do one of the trails I've already done again, and logistics weren't an issue, it would be the Florida Trail. Now, the biggest downside to the Florida Trail, as far as most people are concerned, is the amount of road walking you do. There are a lot of miles of road walks, and they're not all fun road walking miles. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, you're passing gas stations and you're in town and you can get ice cream or whatever, but a lot of the Florida Trail road walks are just like out in the middle of nowhere. So I will say that the Florida Trail Association is all the time working to acquire more land and easements, and are working to get the Florida Trail off the roads and onto the trails. They don't want their hikers on the roads just as much as we don't want to be on the roads. So I bet it's already changed in several areas since I did it 5 years ago. But just know the Florida Trail is a relatively new trail, and that they are working to change that. Another thing I feel like deters people from doing the Florida Trail is alligators. But the truth is, you're really not in danger of being attacked by an alligator very much on the Florida Trail. I mean, I know it seems like, oh my gosh, you're always in their habitat or whatever, but it's really not like that. I would say the best thing you could do to help you kind of overcome that is to just educate yourself on alligator habitat and behavior and things like that. And might I recommend a fella named Chris Gillette, and hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but I follow him on social media, and he puts out the coolest content of gators and other critters too. But he has a sanctuary called Bellowing Acres, and he funded the whole thing out of his life savings of being an alligator wrestler. And he is working with his fiance Gabby to get the place really up and running and start doing tours to allow people to, you know, really get up close and personal and see these critters, which I want to be one of the first people that gets to go. But I'm hoping that when I launch my podcast in a few weeks that I can talk him into being a guest, because I just think that what he does is really cool. So go follow him, check him out on social media, and maybe you won't be so afraid of alligators anymore. So basically, if you love animals and you don't mind getting your feet wet, the Florida Trail is for you. But I do want to say also that the Florida Trail has some amazing trail angels. I met my friend Ari there, who is one of the coolest trail angels I've ever met. He actually hiked with us a stretch, and he's just an all-around good guy. So if you ever see Ari out there, tell him Dixie said hello. So anyway, the Florida Trail rocks, and I'm hoping at some point when Bratcher's older, if he enjoys backpacking, then maybe I can talk him into doing the Florida Trail with me so I can get out there and do it again. Well, all right, y'all, that is all I have for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on the order that you would through hike these trails in if you were to do them, or what you think about my rankings. If you want to, just leave that in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see y'all, and we will see y'all next time.